Hi, good afternoon. Today, we are going to go ahead and take two questions. One is going to be a 7-marker question, and one will be an 8-mark question. Let us try to see how we should be attempting such questions and what kind of answers we can write for those questions. Read the first question. Try to think yourself also as to how we can go ahead and we can write the answer to this question. So just have a look at the question. It says, show that demand has unitary price elastic if price consumption curve is horizontal. Try to understand, analyze the two aspects. So it is saying, and we need to see how we can link the two things. So it is saying demand is unit price elastic. पहले तो आप सोचो कि किस तरीके से through what ways can I prove unit elastic? So in order to prove unit elastic, there are three main ways. तीन तरीके में से कोई भी एक अगर हम दिखा पाए, if we are able to show any one of those, that works. The first method that you have, that is the method which is your total expenditure method, or people call that as total revenue method. इस method से दिखा सकते हैं. What does total expenditure method or total revenue method suggest? It suggests that when price increases or decreases, if total expenditure is constant, then it is unit elastic. Then it is unit elastic. So that is the first way to prove unit elasticity. Let us go ahead and let us look at the second part. The second part is the way in which we have the method of point elasticity. Point elasticity method says that you make a demand curve and at different points on the demand curve, the elasticity would be different. Mane, if I find the elasticity at this point, it is unit elastic. If I find elasticity at this point, it is 0. At this point, it is infinite, greater than 1, less than. Somehow, if we can link this to price consumption curve being horizontal, that is method number 2. Method number 3 is very simple, that we use the formula of elasticity. We use the formula of elasticity. And what's the formula of elasticity? We can go ahead and we can say percentage change in quantity demanded due to percentage change in price is equal to 1. And this means that percentage change in quantity demanded should come same as percentage change in price. So we can go ahead and we can use any of these three methods to prove this thing. कोई भी एक तरीका use कर लो, use any of the three methods, it is fine. Right? So first of all, wherever you read these words, it should ring a bell कि करना क्या है, what I want to achieve. I want to achieve unit elasticity. I want to show unit elasticity. And therefore, in order to go ahead and in order to show unit elasticity, I want to show one of these three things. Ye mind mein you need to run this thing. You're not writing it anywhere as of now, right? Then let's read out the question. अब आगे क्या बोल रहा है? If price consumption curve is horizontal, which means that it is given to me. This is a given thing. Given that the price consumption curve is horizontal. This is given. So if it is given that price consumption curve is horizontal, it means that it is given to me that अच्छा price consumption curve is horizontal. ध्यान से समझना हाँ. तो so now this is a little tricky. So we need to show that it is horizontal. But which price should I change? Should I change price of good X or price of good Y? Generally speaking, whenever nothing is given, you will always assume that there are changes in price of good Y, good X, and good X ke respect mein it is horizontal. So you are assuming that when price of good X is changing, it is decreasing or increasing, then you are getting a horizontal price of a curve. This or price consumption curve, this is given to you, given to us. I hope this is making sense. So what is given to us? It is given that the price consumption curve is horizontal. But हमेशा एक बात ये सोचना है कि price of which good is changing? Price of good X is assumed to change. ठीक है? Now let's start understanding how to solve this question. कैसे करना है? पहले I will just explain you, then I will show you how I have written the answer to this question. But let me just first explain how you can do this kind of questions. So when your price offer curve or price consumption curve is horizontal, it means that consumption of good Y, it is fixed. You see this? It means that consumption of good Y is fixed, right? So price of good X is changing. Tabhi to the budget line has pivoted outwards. Price of good X has changed. So let the old price, let that be PX. And let the new price, let that be PX dash. Such that PX dash is less than PX. That means that there is decrease in price of good X. Okay, I will show you how to write the answer, but first understand how we can prove this thing. From here, my aim is to go towards unit elastic, towards elasticity being 1. Okay. So what I am going ahead and what I am doing in this case is that we are starting with the fact that price of the good has decreased. So this implies that because it is given that there is a horizontal price offer curve, initial equilibrium point would have been X and new equilibrium point would have been X dash. So it is given to you that it is horizontal price offer curve. So initial equilibrium point can be taken as X and new equilibrium point can be taken as X dash. Of course, we know X dash is greater than X. Demand of good X has increased. Now, notice that the price of good Y didn't change क्योंकि हमने तो सिर्फ price of good X को change किया है. We have only changed price of good X. So price of good Y, it is unchanged. Price of good Y change नहीं हुआ है. Also, since the price offer curve is horizontal, ये given है that POC is horizontal, therefore the consumption of good Y is also unchanged, right? So we can say that due to horizontal price offer curve, consumption of good Y is unchanged. Consumption of good Y is same. Also, PY is unchanged. We are assuming price of good Y is constant. So PY into Y is the same. Whether I am at point A or point B, Y का consumption is same. Price of good Y is same. So price into Y का consumption will also be same. It means that expenditure on good Y is same. जितना good Y पे हम spend कर रहे हैं on the 2 points, point A and point B, the expenditure on good Y is the same. Now, tell me what is going to be my budget line. My budget line initially, that is going to be Px into X plus Py into Y is equal to income of the consumer. If I want to find out the expenditure on good X, what will that come out to be, beta? Px into X. And what will be this value? It will be nothing but M minus Py into Y. Now, after the price of good X decreased to Px dash, what will be your new budget line? It will be Px dash into X dash. देखो, price of good X had changed. Consumption of good X had changed. So Px dash into X dash plus Py into Y equal to income of the consumer. Income is unchanged. Income to change nahi hua hai consumer ka. Income is unchanged. So from here, beta, what will come out to be expenditure on good X now? So Px dash X dash will come out as M minus Py into Y. Now look, expenditure on good X here is M minus Py into Y. Expenditure on good X here is M minus Py into Y. Right? ये तो income तो unchanged है दोनों ही केस में. ये भी same ही है दोनों केस में. This is what we have written. That expenditure on good Y is same in the two cases, point A and point B. So the right hand side is the same. Right? So because Px into X is also M minus Py into Y, and Px dash into X dash is also M minus Py into Y, the right hand side is same. This tells us that Px into X should be equal to Px dash into X dash. So what is this telling us? This is telling us that expenditure on good X remained unchanged when price of good X decreased. We changed the price of good X. हमने price of good X तो decrease किया है. But when we changed the price of good X, the expenditure on good X has remained unchanged. So can we say from the first method, come here, that when expenditure remains the same, what is the elasticity? Not elastic. So since expenditure has remained the same, therefore, where is it? So you can just say that, therefore, it is unit elastic. This is the proof to this question. Okay. Okay. Now let me show you how I wrote the answer. Ye to I've just explained you as to how this question will work. Now let's see the explanation. So I started with the case saying, consider a case where you need to write things in words. So consider a case where price of good X decreases and therefore consumer increases the demand of good X, holding the demand of good Y constant. Okay. This gives rise to horizontal price offer curve. तो हमने demand of good Y को constant रखा है, demand of good X को हमने increase किया है. क्यों इंक्रीज किया है? क्योंकि गुड एक्स का प्राइस डिक्रीज हुआ है. एंड बिकॉज ऑफ दिस आई एम गेटिंग अ हॉरिजॉन्टल प्राइस ऑफर कर्व. ठीक है. नाउ आई हैव रिटन since the demand of good Y and price of good Y is unchanged. Here you can also mention in bracket along the two budget lines. So for the two different budget lines, हम ये बोल रहे हैं कि डिमांड भी सेम है गुड वाई का और प्राइस भी सेम है. So since demand and price of good Y are the same, the expenditure on good Y will be the same. तो वही we have written that the expenditure on good Y will remain unchanged. There will be no change in the expenditure of good Y. I have just gone ahead and then written those two budget lines that I just explained you. That px into x is equal to plus py into y is m. तो यहां से हमने expenditure on good x निकाल लिया. You can just write expenditure on good x initially. And then you can just go ahead and say here that this is the expenditure on good x after price change. Right? You can just give these two equations. And then you can just say that since the both equations have same right hand side, they have the same RHS, we conclude that expenditure on good X remains unchanged. Right? This implies unit elasticity. You can also give why it implies unit elasticity, क्योंकि अभी तक हमने कहीं पे भी बताया नहीं कि unit elasticity क्या है. So you can just say when price decreases and expenditure is unchanged, it is unit elastic. So therefore, price offer curve being horizontal is unit elastic. This is how you can go ahead and write a full-fledged answer in this case. I hope this is absolutely clear to you. Right? Okay. Now let's move on. Let's move on to the next question for the thing. State the Euler's theorem. Use this theorem to explain the product exhaustion problem.